You young folks have it so easy. I worked up until the day before I gave birth. Ignoring my plea to rest with just a week left before my due date, mother-in-law, who happens to be Sam's mom, dragged me out into the snowy cold and told me, "Go shovel the snow." Ever since I got married, I've been troubled by this overbearing woman who thinks she knows best. Never in my wildest dreams did I think this would lead to a major incident that involved our neighbors and made local news. My name is Kristen, and I'm 30. I've been married to Sam, a college classmate, for 3 years. He'd promised his parents he'd return to our hometown after graduation, and after doing so, began working at his family's generations-old donut shop. Meanwhile, I'd started working a regular job. Our long-distance relationship led to both of us wishing we could be together every day, so we decided to tie the knot. I moved to Sam's hometown, excited for a new beginning, but that excitement was crushed pretty quickly. "I'm not like other mother-in-laws. I'm strict. Be prepared to learn all about housework," she warned. I felt like I'd been greeted by a drill sergeant. While Sam and his father are generally quiet people, his mother has a piercing voice that echoes loudly. As someone who suffers from migraines, her voice was torturous to my head. She'd wanted Sam to marry someone from a similar business background. However, Sam firmly told her, "If you don't accept my marriage to Kristen, I won't continue the family business." Reluctantly, she agreed. Sam's dad, on the other hand, was kind to me from the start, saying, "She's the one our son chose." Their main house was near the donut shop, an old building built by Sam's late grandparents. Though old, it was renovated a few years ago. Sam and I lived in a guest house on the property. Sam had early mornings, heading to the shop for prep work. After waving him off, I'd rush to the main house. Waiting for me there, she'd often scold, "Come on, at this rate you won't get breakfast ready in time," slapping her hands together as if to emphasize the point. If I could, I'd tell her to stop clapping and yelling. But considering our roles, I held back. I knew that speaking out would only fuel her rage even more. I tried to brush off mother-in-law's nagging, doing my best to keep calm. Mother-in-law, could you maybe help me out a bit? Preparing meals for 15 people all by myself is a bit much. It's an age-old tradition since my husband's great-grandfather's time to have breakfast with the craftsmen. But mother-in-law wanted me to handle all of the food preparation on my own. And to make matters worse, she would stand behind me, constantly complaining about how I did things. "You're so slow. Your mother must have really spoiled you, Kristen." On top of that, there was this strange rule that I had to prepare at least 5 dishes. I was always pressed for time. Is this what you meant by household training? If this is going to be an everyday thing, I don't know if I can handle it. About an hour before the store opened, people started pouring in. "Oh, everything looks so delicious today." "It must have been tough preparing all this so early in the morning," Sam and the craftsman commented with sympathy. Their kindness was heartwarming, but then there were frustrating moments. "It's no big deal. Kristen is so laid back that I ended up doing most of the cooking again today." The way mother-in-law said it, as if she was the one who did everything, really got on my nerves. That night, when I was alone with Sam, I told him, "Your mom is so tough on me. She yelled at me again today. Is this what our future looks like?" Seeing me so disheartened, he replied, "I'm really sorry about my mom. She seems energetic at the store, but she's actually a very shy and quiet person. She's just been trying too hard since you came. I found it hard to believe since I had only seen this side of mother-in-law. Still, knowing Sam was on my side gave me strength. The thought of getting a divorce because of mother-in-law's mistreatment never crossed my mind. Plus, it wasn't all bad. Thanks to mother-in-law's guidance, my cooking skills improved significantly. The elderly couple next door always greeted me with warm smiles. The butcher was super friendly, and the florist loved to chat so much that when she started, it'd be hard to leave for at least an hour. Even mother-in-law had her moments. It was a community filled with kind people. Although mother-in-law can be quite harsh at times, I thought. And then there was this one day. Wow, look at all the snow! I've never seen so much snow in my life! I was incredibly excited by the winter wonderland spread out before me. You see, I was born in the southern part of Texas, where it hardly ever snows. If it did, it'd be sleet, or at best, a few inches of snow. And that's a rare occurrence, maybe once in several years. Hey Sam, wanna build a snowman? Watching me gleefully play in the snow like a child, Sam looked on with an affectionate smile. From the main house, mother-in-law must have been observing because she commented, "At your age, it's quite embarrassing to get so excited over a bit of snow. Don't you worry about the neighbors hearing you carry on like that? It's so undignified." After her snide remark, she retreated back to her house. Standing next to Sam, who had a look of disbelief towards my mother-in-law's comments, I blurted out, "Hey, Sam, please don't expect me to take care of mother-in-law in her old age, okay?" It was a comment I hadn't meant to voice out loud. Time flew by, and 3 years into our marriage, there was a big change in our lives. I was pregnant. Having undergone several hospital treatments to conceive, the news brought immense joy to our hearts. Come to think of it, the one thing my mother-in-law hadn't complained about was the topic of children. When I broke the news, she exclaimed, "Oh my! Really? That's wonderful! Kristen, make sure you don't catch a cold, okay?" Her unusually bright smile caught me off guard. However, it was short-lived, as she quickly reverted to her typical demeanor and added, "Well, I still expect you to keep up with the housework." I was constantly baffled by her ever-changing emotions. I phoned my parents to share the news. Amidst their congratulations, my mother hesitated. "Kristen, I'm sorry, but giving birth at our place might be difficult." To which I replied, "It's okay." I understood her concerns. My paternal grandfather lived with them, and they were already stretched thin looking after him. It wouldn't be practical for me to return there, baby in tow. My morning sickness wasn't too severe, but due to anemia, even preparing breakfast became a struggle. Noticing this, my mother-in-law sighed. "All right, move aside." She pushed me into a chair, grumbling, but took over breakfast preparations. "Thank you, mother-in-law," I said, to which she retorted, "I'm not doing this for you, just couldn't stand watching you struggle." Yet, in her actions, I felt a hint of unexpected kindness. As my pregnancy progressed, by the 3rd trimester, I was relieved from both cooking and going to the store. Though I'd have loved to say that this time was stress-free, my mother-in-law would pop by regularly to check on me. "Just making sure you aren't slacking off," she'd grumble. Still, she'd bring over both breakfast and lunch, a routine that continued until a week before my due date. "You know, mother-in-law is genuinely kind-hearted," I mused, hoping to bridge the gap between us. She stopped in her tracks, muttered something under her breath that I couldn't catch, and suddenly proposed, "Kristen, let's go shopping now." She was insistent that a little exercise would be good for me, and practically dragged me outside. Even when I expressed, I want to rest at home, she snapped. You're so noisy. I worked until the day before I gave birth, you know. Young people these days are so spoiled. She forcefully took the keys from me, locked the door, and commanded, Wait here, I'm bringing the car. All I want is a break. But then mother-in-law did something unbelievable. As she got into her car, she rolled down the window and declared, Shovel the snow and do some work. You're not getting back in until you're done. With that, she drove away. Stunned by the unexpected turn of events, I froze for a few seconds before snapping back to reality. Wait, what? No way. I need to get back inside. Reaching into my pocket, I realized the house keys were missing. Recalling that she had taken them, a cold dread washed over me. I couldn't even call for help because I'd left my phone inside. Reluctantly deciding to walk to a nearby donut shop, I felt something wrong with my body. How much time had passed? My returning mother-in-law must have been shocked. An ambulance was parked on our property. Surrounding me were doctors, nurses, and a few neighbors. Sam and my father-in-law rushed over, their faces filled with concern. Above me, voices rang out. Who in their right mind would lock out Kristen, who's about to give birth? I'm so sorry. Mother-in-law apologized as the two of them scolded her. But honestly, I had bigger things on my mind. Frustrated by the noise, I shouted, Enough! Save the lectures for later. A doctor chimed in. Please be quiet. She's about to give birth. I had just started walking to the shop when I felt warmth between my legs, realizing immediately that my water had broken. Panicking, I cried out, and an elderly couple from next door came to my aid. A major event was happening nearby, and the ambulance got stuck in traffic. Our neighbor used to be a certified professional midwife, one of them mentioned, and it felt like a miracle when a friend arrived to help. By the time the ambulance arrived, I was fully dilated. By then, Sam and the others had also arrived, and I ended up giving birth at home. Minutes later, our long-awaited child was born, crying heartily. The baby and I were immediately transported by ambulance. A TV crew covering the nearby event happened to pass by our home. That evening, our story titled, A Local's Miracle Birth, aired for a few minutes on local news. A few days later, someone came to visit me in the hospital. Kristen, With tears on the brink of spilling, mother-in-law stood before me. I gazed at her, then said, Did you see the baby? She looks just like Sam, a beautiful little girl. Having peeked into the nursery, mother-in-law nodded. But, I was terrified thinking that she might not have made it. Do you truly understand the gravity of what you did, mother-in-law? Mother-in-law looked down, saying nothing. After what happened, I immediately asked my husband for a divorce, but he told me to talk to you, Kristen. Yes, I requested that both of you speak to me. I have a lot to say to you, mother-in-law. Throughout our calm conversation, mother-in-law's gaze remained lowered. The day after I gave birth, father-in-law and Sam came to apologize. I told them I wanted to speak with mother-in-law. Then I added, Aren't both of you relying too much on mother-in-law? Please take better care of her. I might have come off a bit preachy to Sam and father-in-law. Father-in-law said he didn't plan on leaving mother-in-law, though he hadn't told mother-in-law yet. When father-in-law shared that after this incident he planned to pass the store on to Sam and leave with mother-in-law, I was taken aback. They told me the final decision was mine. Mother-in-law, my parents, especially my dad, were vibrant and respectful. I was strictly disciplined growing up, which made me resilient. Mother-in-law slightly lifted her face as if asking, What's this about? Her eyes were swollen and red, probably from crying. Even with my upbringing, harsh words or passive-aggressive remarks still hurt. I never met Sam's grandmother, but I think you don't need to force yourself to act like her. At my words, mother-in-law suddenly looked up, her eyes wide. In fact, I had realized a while ago that mother-in-law might actually be a kind person at heart. And that's because our town is full of chatty people. People used to say that Carla, right after her marriage, was lively and always smiling like you are now. But the previous owner was quite stern. The one who shared that story with me was the owner of the flower shop. Turns out the donut shop was originally started by Sam's late step-grandmother's parents. Sam's mother, who married the only son of the family, father-in-law, was brought up with strict guidance from them. The late step-grandmother always used to say, "Are you trying to run this store into the ground?" Apparently, Sam's mother struggled for a long time to have a child, and Sam was the child she finally had. When Sam introduced me, a woman from an ordinary family just like her, she was really flustered. "Never let the shop fail." Those words haunted her even after her stepmother passed away. "I was strict with you because I didn't want you to run away, thinking you've had enough of me," she told me. I responded, "That wouldn't happen. I love Sam. But you loved father-in-law too. That's why you're still here, right?" I gave her a little smile, and tears streamed down her face. "The previous owner always told me to show dignity and not to laugh too much. So, when you mentioned that I was kind that day, I heard her voice in my head telling me to be more stern. Silly, right?" After thinking for a bit, I said, "I'm not sure what the right way to be an owner is, but as a customer, I'd prefer a smiling face." Mother-in-law with a stern face wasn't bad, but when she smiled upon hearing I was pregnant, she looked wonderful. That's how she should always be. "I have a few requests, mother-in-law. Let's prepare breakfast together. And you don't need to raise your voice. I can hear you just fine. Oh, and I don't like it when you clap your hands. And..." "Wait, there's more, Kristen?" We both burst into laughter. Years later, I still work at the donut shop. "Mother-in-law, how many more omelets should I make?" "Well, Sarah eats a lot, so maybe make 2 more? Could you, dear?" Our daughter Sarah, born from that time, is now 4 years old. Mother-in-law has become more affectionate towards me. Every morning we cook breakfast together cheerfully. What used to be a quiet dining table is now so lively. It's almost too noisy, and even the staff seem happy about it. That day, the reason mother-in-law was late was because she got caught up chatting with the flower shop owner and then got stuck in traffic on her way home. Rumors spread for a while that mother-in-law had kicked me out, but I quickly set things straight. That's not what happened. I just forgot I gave mother-in-law a key. Word spread fast from the florist owner, and any bad talk about mother-in-law disappeared. My father-in-law began spending more time with mother-in-law. He left the store in Sam and the craftsman's hands, and the two of them started going out together more often. People in town began to say, "Carla seems brighter lately, like she's shaken off a bad spirit." New customers flocked in, and business was booming. Every winter, the town is blanketed in snow. "It's piled up again this year. Sarah, are you up for our annual competition?" I say with a grin, and my daughter Sarah responds with determination. "I won't lose." "Oh boy," Sam mutters as he steps outside. Our yearly snowman building contest begins. From the main house, mother-in-law emerges saying, "I'm on Team Sarah." Sarah's words make mother-in-law smile brightly. "Maybe I'll just watch," mother-in-law says playfully. To which I respond, "Mother-in-law, you can't forget our promise." With a smile I add, "And don't worry about me. But Sam, instead of standing there, grab an extra jacket for me." I had made a request to mother-in-law at the hospital after that fateful day. When Sarah grows up, I want you to make snowmen with her. I hope you'll be the kind and loving grandmother I know you can be. I remember how she had cried hearing those words. Now I'm expecting our second child. We recently found out it's a boy, and Sarah will soon have a little brother. Every day, Sarah lovingly strokes my belly, impatiently asking, "Is it time yet?" I'm sure she'll be a great big sister. I don't plan on going back to my hometown for the delivery this time. After Sarah was born, mother-in-law often supported me with child rearing during her breaks from work. She's already looking forward to the arrival of the newborn, saying, "It's been a while, I can't wait." She's become a second mother to me, someone I deeply rely on. Despite the challenges, I plan to enjoy my life here, with the land and its